We are live. Close my door. All right. Oop, what? We need to adjust that a little, Russell.
There we go.
All right.
Well, good evening, Terri. How are you?
Annoyed.
We had several technical difficulties trying to get here tonight, but we're here.
You know, no matter how hard I try to get everything perfect so that nothing causes problems, I have a problem. Today I went and did notes so Russell could be prepared, had things to print out so that he could have everything he needed, and my printer keeps jamming. So I'm annoyed, a bit cranky. Yeah, that's kind of how life, because I just feel like every time I come and I try and it just keeps not working.
It's not working. Obstacles ahead of us. Anyway, let's jump right in. So, if you remember last week, we had a really good discussion. We had some charts and graphs, and we walked through those. This is chapter 5 of The Body Keeps Score. And tonight we're going to continue that discussion on chapter 5. And we're going to introduce, just go right off with the neural theory.
The neural love code.
Neural love code. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm all out of love.
You are. So, really, this is about when we are with somebody, how safe we feel with somebody, and how safe we feel with somebody really makes a difference on how we respond or how our body responds. It's really difficult because there's just so much here. With the neural acts, when you're think about the times when you were with your wife that you felt the most relaxed, the most calming, the most soothing. Our bodies give off little signs. Like if I was sitting there and I was, I don't know, playing with a knife. Yeah, your eyes just went, because you didn't know what I was going to do.
Yeah.
You guys missed it, but his eyes just went, because you didn't know what I was grabbing at. But that gives us a sign of whether we're safe or not. When you really connect with somebody, you really feel safe with them. And when you really feel safe, that allows our body to relax. It allows it to calm. It allows it to soothe. But when we don't, that's when we get into trouble with regulations. And it's oftentimes in this place where we, I don't know why that's doing that. Sorry. Where we feel the most struggles in life. I think when I think back to what I love about the book and that it said, and I'm actually going to kind of talk about it, it says most of the energy is devoted to connecting to others, most of our energy, right? If we look past the diagnosis of most mental health, we find the suffering involves trouble either creating workable or satisfying relationships or difficulty regulating those. So I was thinking about that. I was thinking about all the times people come into me and they're struggling with depression or anxiety, and that's a difficulty regulating relationships, right? Like we are struggling with being able to connect, where it really comes down to like we get depressed and we disconnect, right? The other thing the book talked about, we talked a little bit about this last week, was the tribe idea, right? That we're meant to be a part of a tribe. What do you think that means? Like when you think about that, what do you think about in regards to tribe?
Well, I think we've learned that it's important to have a social circle. And I think most every one of us, especially during the pandemic, when we all experienced the shutdowns, that so many of us became isolated, even from our own families. And if we were one that was living alone, I think we really felt that isolation. And and those of us that still had some family members at home, I think it was a little bit less of a trauma.
I don't know that it was less. It was. I think it was hard for many things because we took you out of your connections. We took you away from work. We took you, locked you up, and in some places, we created more stress and more anxiety, and so you had more fights at home. So it really wasn't a safer place.
No, I think for some people it wasn't.
No, and so we saw more. Interesting enough, for like saving lives by don't get COVID, but at the cost of mental health, because we took away everybody's aspect of safety connections. It's a fundamental to feeling satisfied in life is to feel connected. And if you think about your relationships and the times that you've had anything going on within your relationships or with anything like that, you have the point of trying to be connected. So I'm going to let you kind of talk about that for a second. In regards to that, I want to ask you, Like, think about how your life has changed not having your partner and having your partner. What I try to figure out why my thing keeps turning off here for a second.
Well, yeah. So for those that are listening that have lost our spouse, I think even though we may have family members, some close friends, we still go through a period of isolation. And I think some of that a little bit is self-induced, and but most of it I think is a lot of people just don't know what to do with us once we lose a spouse, and they don't know how to talk to us. They don't know how to approach us, and so myself, I noticed that a lot of friendships ended or became less as I became widowed. But fortunately, I found new relationships and new friendships. So
Like
that's
me.
yeah. So Terri, yeah, and so that's been the upside, and and I think though that you're responsible for pulling that trigger, and
Ooh.
you're the one that needs to go out and find that tribe, so to say, when your tribe that you've known for years, all of a sudden you're not a part of anymore. You can continue to self isolate, or you can go and find new people. And I know it's hard. The older you are, there's articles and studies on this that it is hard to make friends in your older years, but it is possible. And Terri and I both have a lot of mutual friends as a result of our common connection,
Yes.
and I think it's been pretty fabulous, no?
I do. Well, and that connection has brought us a lot of peace and security.
Mm-hmm.
It's allowed us to be able to just heal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's hard though because the book talked about the three different levels of things, and I want to talk about that. So one of the things we have is, well, there's a lot that I want to cover.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I want to cover, especially as we're talking about relationships, something that I've seen in our widow group is a lot is trauma connection.
I was just going to bring that up. Let's talk about that.
We're going to talk about some good
I
stuff
was
today.
just going to ask you about that.
Okay.
So let's go into that.
Trauma connection is when trauma can happen, or lost connection, or any event that you go through can happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you are like me and you, part of our connection is the fact that we lost a spouse.
Even though we lost them in a different way,
we did lose them in a different way.
We still can connect because of that mutual trauma.
And that mutual loss, that mutual trauma can create a connection with us that can fool you into thinking you're in love. It can fool you into thinking that you have everything and everything's going good because it's connection, and we're bonding based upon that experience. But it's really superficial, and I've seen a lot of people within our group get married quickly and fastly, and they think that they're in love. But what's really going on is it could be that trauma connection or just that lost connection. We talked a little bit about that last time when the 9/11, I think we talked about this last time, like the 9/11 victims all got together and they started doing group therapy, and they had a lot of affairs and things starting. And some people, they weren't affairs, just a lot of relationships happening because they had that connection. They connected over the experience, and they needed that. But that trauma connection, it can do a doozy. And I've seen it. I've seen it with me. I've done it over connection and thinking it was true connection. It was really just trauma connection. Or it was really because I have connected with people. Being somebody who has been through sexual abuse, I have connected with people over sexual abuse. And some of those have been lifelong connections, and so it's been great. It's been more than just that. But some of them were superficial, and they were just the bond over the event. I have done the trauma connection. I have done the loss connection where, we lost a partner, we lost, and we understand the hurt and pain and everything in that. And so it is a real thing that you can create that. And that loss is, it's a shared feeling, but it's interesting because the book brought it up and it said, focusing on a shared history of trauma and victimization alleviates this searing sense of isolation, but usually at the price of having to deny their individual differences. Members can belong only if confronted on a common chord. So then the book talks about this, that we actually can create things because sometimes in our group, we don't like everybody. Sometimes we're like, I'm sorry.
Well, that's a good point, because I've told several people that for some people, all you will ever have is that mutual connection that you lost a spouse.
Yes.
And the friendship you can build upon that depends on what else you find in common. And I was just going to ask you, because I feel that that mutual loss brought me together with a lot of people
like me.
but it's also, we found mutual things to create friendships aside
Yes.
from the loss, and as those years have gone on, the friendship has developed into something more than just our mutual loss of a
Yes.
spouse, and but not with everyone.
No,
You
not
know?
with everything. And we could use our group
Mhm.
for example.
Yeah.
We have a really great group.
Mhm.
We kind of joke around about candy cigarettes and having a good old smoke after having a really fun time.
Mhm.
And it's our little joke thing. But
Mhm.
we have created within that group a lot of other connections,
Yeah.
a lot of other things that
Mhm.
aren't just about our loss. Do we talk
Mhm.
about loss?
Mhm.
Yes.
But not so much anymore.
No,
Right?
and
Yeah.
sometimes when somebody new or somebody who's
Mhm.
going through, like for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
this weekend will be 15 years since I've lost my husband.
Wow.
And I plan an event, not even really putting the dates together because sometimes I
Mhm.
get busy,
Mhm.
but I plan an event and we're going to a play. The
Yeah.
night of my 15th
Mhm.
year anniversary of losing my husband, I'm going out to dinner and
Mhm.
play with my group of friends.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for that because
Mhm.
I'm trying right now to have stories about and good memories and things
Yeah.
like that of Dana. But it's a great way to go spend a day.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have a great night and I'm going to have great memories. And will I talk about my husband a little bit that night? I might. I might not. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But our bond is beyond that
Mhm. Yeah.
intimacy of that event. And
Yeah.
and I want to bring it up because we talk about it in regards to widow, but you can happen
Mhm.
in any type of event, any
Yeah.
type of group. You can have a it's basic connection, and so you can be in a laughter group or a dating group, or you can be in a what came in my head, a razor ride group or a
I was gonna
hiking
say,
group,
a car club or something.
a car club, anything.
Yeah.
And again, those are needed connections,
Yeah.
but sometimes those connections are not true connections.
Yeah.
Which also goes back to that second part of what it brought up, which was sometimes we exclude.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that person doesn't fit into our group, and so we're like, sorry, you don't get to be a part of us, right?
Well, I kind of noticed, I think a church is a good example of that.
Ooh, we're talking religion. Let's go.
The church I attend, we're all basically neighbors and just happen to attend the same church, but I don't have a connection with everybody.
No,
And
nor should you.
yeah, I mean, I'm nice and cordial, but there's people that if they move or I move, I don't think I'd ever reach out to see them again.
Exactly. But what happens with that is sometimes is that when we don't have a secure foundation,
Yeah.
those little moments where we don't connect with somebody can really create hurt and trauma
Mhm.
because we are all needing that connection. And so we go
Yeah.
to church or we go to school and we think we're going to connect with everybody, and we don't.
We don't.
And that lack of connection can really, it can actually create a feeling of I don't matter, right?
Yeah,
Which can be dangerous.
Yeah, and I see that in the congregation I attend. Is I'm one of the oldest members. It's a congregation made up of a lot of young people because it's apartments and rental units, and so. But I've chosen to have fun with it rather than say, "Oh, there's no one to sit with," or "There's no one my age," or "The people my age are married." I chose to have fun with it.
Yes, which you allowed you to find places of instead of isolating,
Yeah.
you found ways to connect. But what can happen in these events is that we can create isolation, and then that isolation can create even more despair and just that feeling of denial and like I don't matter, and that can really tear somebody apart, especially somebody who has a traumatic past and who doesn't already feel those connections. And so then we can end up in seclusion and isolation and things like that. And think about that.
So how does that person turn around?
We're going to get to that.
Okay,
We're going to talk about some healing stuff, but not yet. Okay. The other thing the book talked about was that the progress theory, which regulates the system on 3 levels. Okay. So the first level of safety is determined, is activated in feelings of threat or support. And so we often, and it's that socialness. Okay. So the first level is your social support. We often will reach out. We want to ask for help and we want to do those things. But what happens when we reach out and ask for help when people don't meet us?
It happens.
It happens, but it causes problems because if I reach out and say, hey, and I say I'm struggling and somebody doesn't connect with me, it's going to make me feel not safe. And then I'm not going to do what? Reach out again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so because I reached out and I asked for help, and if it's not met, I won't ask again. But what happens even deeper is that it goes into the second layer, right? So if I'm reaching out for help and trying to so somebody's walking by, right? And something's happening, they're asking for help and nobody responds. Then they go into the second level, which is we love Russell because he's always like the fight or flight, that fight or flight response, right?
Yeah.
That second level is that fight or flight response. And so when that happens, again, we're either going to fight or we're going to try to flee. Okay. And if that isn't responded, then we get into the third level, which is freeze. And when that freeze happens, the idea behind the body happening is the body is trying to hold energy. It's trying to survive. It's trying to make it through the event. So it's going into isolation. And so it's trying to preserve as little as possible. And we are able to then freeze or collapse. And so that's when you get the fainting and stuff like that. And so with this ventral vagal complex trigger, it runs the show. Okay, so that's another thing that talked about. So this ventral, the VVC, is the thing that if I smile, you just smile a little bit, right? If I laugh, you'll laugh. It generates that part of your body that is meant to connect. It's a part of that.
So is that up in our brain, that reaction?
And it goes down through your, it shoots off into a tree down your neck, not down your neck, your
spinal cord.
Thank you, your spinal cord. Yes. And that is the part that at first, that's the part that's the calm, the relaxed, the soothing part of your body, and that pleasure arousal, right? If no one responds to that, like I said, we respond to that next level and the next level. And so that last level, the thing I also want to bring up is not only the fading and collapse, but that's when we begin to, have you ever heard the term disassociate?
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think that means? Like disassociation?
Well, if I've had a traumatic event, say it's a dog, because that seems to be kind of common.
Okay.
Now, if I'm a little guy, a little toddler, and I had a traumatic event with a dog, then I tend to, every dog is going to hurt me.
Okay, that's not disassociation. Okay. That's association.
Association, okay.
Okay, so you're talking about where you're going to associate things with dogs. Okay. Yes. Disassociation, think distance. So associate, you're going to make everything similar. Disassociation is the fact that we want to pull away.
I'm going to pull away and retract.
Yes, I'm going to distance. I want to disassociate. I want to get myself away from it. And so what can happen is you pull away from your emotions and get numb.
Okay.
Right? So if you're experiencing with somebody who is numb, that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing. Disassociation, we all do it.
Yeah.
But it becomes a problem when we stay in it for too long. Right? It's in
I think people can stay there for years, can't they?
Yes. Yeah. Well, people stay in it for a lifetime. Yeah. It becomes their main coping mechanism. Yeah. It's the way that they deal with things is to disassociate, to not feel, right? I don't want to feel. And so I'm not going to let myself feel. I'm going to numb myself so I don't feel, right? The other thing, I just want to check my notes here. Oh, so one of the things that we have to do, and this is going to the next level. So we've kind of talked about this, but I want to go back to relationships and that connection. One of the things we have to do in order to be able to mate, to take care of people, to take care of our young and nurture, guess what we have to do? We have to let that part of our brain that's trying to protect disengage. And the book talked about it is the defensive system must temporarily shut down in order for us to be able to mate, take care of, and nurture our young. The brain needs to turn it off turn off the natural vigilance and be able to take care of us. And many traumatized people can become hyper vigilant because of this turn off, and they can have difficulty being able to learn to absorb new experiences, and so they become numb to experiences. So have you ever been around somebody, they're like, what are you talking about? That didn't happen. And it's like they were just numb to the whole experience. We talked, I think we've talked before, like at the funeral. I'm just kind of like, did that happen? I don't remember that happened. Be very numb to that experience, right? And so that's what can happen. But the point that I'm trying to break out is in doing this is we actually have to allow that safety part to step back so we can have sex, so we can create, we can nurture our children so we can take care of things. We have to allow that extra protection to disconnect. Can you imagine somebody who's relied on that to keep them safe, having that? They become dysregulated. They can't regulate their body. They become so out of, that's the word I want to use. They're unable. They're unable to show up. They're so dysregulated. They can't even take care of or nurture. And so sometimes we come in, especially with like CPS or different experiences, and we want to judge that, oh, well, you're just a bad parent.
Yeah. So could those disassociated people, and when I hear that and I think about it, I think someone has probably isolated and lived alone their whole life, but that person could very well be a parent and in a marriage and raise children, but still be disassociated, right?
Well, they can be they can also be numb and not really showing
Mhm.
up as a parent.
Yeah.
They can totally be a parent
Mhm.
and show up for some things,
Yeah.
but not. Or this is where we get
Mhm.
into those
Yeah.
attachment disorders and things like
Mhm.
that, where you can get reactive attachment disorder. You can
Mhm.
get over attachment, where the helicopter parent,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like too safe and everything like that. And so all those things can happen, but what at the basis of it is lack of the correct connection with your children, and so it can
Mhm.
create problems with
Mhm.
secure attachment. Um, in order to feel, I go back to how hard that is to connect to somebody
Mhm.
when we're suffering trauma,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yet our partners really expect us to show up and
Mhm.
connect.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't you being intimate with me? Well, why would I feel intimate with you?
Yeah.
I'm not safe.
Mhm.
And so this is the important thing that I say is we sometimes forget how important it is in a relationship for safety.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that for a moment.
Yeah.
Because safety is the thing that allows us to trust.
Mhm.
Safety is the thing that allows us to communicate.
Mhm.
Safety is the thing that allows us to be able to be vulnerable. It
Yeah.
allows us to be able to be intimate with our partner. And so when we're in a situation and we're not feeling safe,
Mhm.
it can really destroy a relationship.
Yeah.
And yet, as a partner, you can feel like you're giving me safety,
Mhm.
but I don't feel safe because
Yeah.
my neurons, my electrons have been so damaged by what I've went through that I can't get safe.
Mhm.
I can't. And so this leads into a little bit of a discussion here that we're going to talk about for a minute.
Yeah.
Russell asked earlier, like, what do we do?
Yeah. What do we
Right?
do? How do we get safe?
How do we get safe? With my kiddos, there is a book. Let me see if I can grab it real quick. Hold on. It was back here, right here. It's called Theraplay. And this is a little booklet. I have a couple of them. But some of the things that we do in Theraplay is to help bring back those senses back in.
Mhm.
So one of the things is powder in the palm of the neighbor to your right. So as you rub the powder into your palm, so what I would do is, let's say there's powder on here, okay?
Mhm.
So as I'm rubbing it, I'm going to,
Mhm.
what did you just feel?
Like a letter being written.
Yeah,
or
what
something?
letter?
Yeah.
Oh, he's looking,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing.
The letter P.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so one of the ways in which I just create a connection was touch, right?
Mhm.
So I touched you, but we also looked. With
Yeah.
my kiddos, I also do, when I've done kids therapy, sorry, I wasn't planning to do this,
Mhm.
but let's say you're one of my kiddos and you're the parent, I'm the mom.
Yeah.
So we take little cotton balls. So if you've
Mhm.
got a kid who's struggling to connect
Mhm.
or have reactive attachment disorders and things like this, this is a great one. So these little cotton balls, and we play paint. Okay.
Mhm.
So kind of like I just did on your hand. I'm going to touch you, Russell. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. So I'm painting on his face, and this is creating connection.
Mhm.
And with your little kids, you want to get as close as they let you.
Mhm.
So I'm going to let you be the parent, and I'm
Okay.
going to be the kid.
Okay.
Now we're going to get close here, so I'm going to turn the camera a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to do it on this side so our viewers can see.
Okay, but do you see this closeness?
Yeah.
We can able to touch and see, and there's touch.
And visual.
Yeah, and so that's going to let my neurons in my head begin to reconnect and rebuild. And so it's interesting because some people are like, oh, I can only do this with kids. But could you imagine doing that with your wife?
Yeah. Is that why touch and holding is so important to a newborn?
Yes. Well, not just for newborns, it's for everybody.
Yeah.
It helps rebuild those neurons. It helps rebuild that connection and safety. You have to feel really safe to let somebody touch you. Like, obviously, if he didn't feel safe with me, what was his... Exactly. He would have pulled back. But I was able to reach over and just touch your head. No, we're not dating. Everybody keeps asking. We're not. But he feels comfortable enough with me that I can touch him. And so, again, understanding that when you allow somebody to touch you, you feel safe with them. When you don't allow people to touch you, you're not feeling safe. And that might not be anything to do with me or you. It can be doing with your own things, is that safety part, right? That connection part and things like that. And so again, there's some really great little things, but think about that in regards to how soothing and caring and things like that. And so I will have my kiddos come in with their parents, and I will let them, and it's called paint, cotton ball paint, and we will let them sit there and paint on each other, and it helps build the connection, helps rebuild that attachment, and helps to build a secure attachment. And during the process, encourage the moms or dads to say, "You're safe. I've got you," and that helps them to reestablish that safety connection that got damaged from whatever they went through. So that's one of the ways. And again, you can do that as an adult. There's a and we got Suri talking to me for a second. This is another one. It's called anticipation, and these ones are group ones. So this is a good exercise at the end of a session. The leader states one thing she is looking forward to for the upcoming week. The person on the right states one thing he is looking forward to, and so on and so on. And so that's a form of anticipation, but in a good way. We're talking about what we look forward to. Instead of anticipation being something scary, which builds our anxiety, we flip it around and we start to build those good feelings, those positive feelings. And so, again, can you do that with adults? In a group therapy offer, we can sit there and talk about what we're looking forward to.
Well, because I learned early on in my grief that if you had something to look forward to, that was helpful.
Yes.
You know, an event or a day out or something.
It gives you hope.
Yeah.
Right? And that goes back to mental health. Is oftentimes in mental health, we have problems when we begin to feel hopeless or we don't feel there's any hope. And that's when you get suicidal. That's when you get a lot of their problems is there's just no hope, right?
Yeah.
You feel hopeless.
It's Wednesday. It's one of those weeks where I lost track of the days, but today's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday, so we start looking forward to the weekend, and we have something planned
on Saturday.
So we're looking forward to it more than just, I think we always look forward to the weekend, but if it's just a weekend at home, sometimes that's nice. But yeah, it's nice to say, gosh, it's Wednesday and tomorrow's Thursday, and then we're so close to having our get together on Saturday.
Yes. So that's one way. So touch is a great way. The other thing is drums. Going and doing a drumming class. Native Americans do it a lot, and that beat, that calming, soothing, boom, 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 boom. It gets your bottom back in rhythm. Again, you don't want to be going fast because that's going to bring anxiety, but getting that rhythm. The book talked about that. The book talked also about yoga. Big fan of yoga. Again, that mindfulness, it gets that movement. One of the things we want to do when you're working with somebody who is really struggling with being connected, you want to get them back in their body. We talked a little bit about that last week, like how, and that's when I talked about the mitts. And it's really like I have mitts in my purse all the time because it helps bring people back. Like this can, but not usually. So, but the other side to that is movement, getting people to have really good movement. And it talked about taking self-defense classes or karate. It also talked about dance.
Yeah.
Dance is a really great one. Give me a second to make sure. So it says getting, it talked about, and I want to bring this up. So one of the things that we've struggled is as funding has happened from the schools, we started to pull some of the most fundamental things. So we pulled choir, we pulled physical ed. Instead of my son having in high school physical ed every semester, he has it like two terms.
2 times a year.
Yeah, like he only has it just a little bit. And those are the very things that we shouldn't be pulling. The book talks about is we shouldn't be getting rid of choir. We shouldn't be getting rid of physical education or recess or anything involving movement, play, and joyfulness should not be taken away. And yet, those oftentimes are the first things we say because it's more important to have math than it is to have fun. Or think of how many times a drama program will get pulled when that's the thing. It's playfulness, imagination, and yet we shouldn't be pulling those things. And so we've got to remember that we've got to bring those joyful things back into our lives, which help our body and our mind to heal. Right? It helps us to be able to have those good things going on and stuff like that. So when you talk about this, Russ, I'm going to check and see if we have any comments. But what? Hi, Paul. Kevin, you're watching us. Kevin's watching us. Shh. Kevin, people are going to think we're dating again. Kevin's my other rumor of a person I'm dating. So Russell's one of them because we hang out, and Kevin's another one that we hang out. So I get rumors that we're dating.
It's a hot threesome.
It is. We talk about our threesomes. We're talking about
hot mess threesome.
That we should like go away for a weekend and really just have fun. It's funny. Me and Kevin are talking about we're going on a cruise, and we're like, oh, people are going to think we're coming back engaged.
But those are again things to look forward to.
They're the things to look forward to. And if you watch my face, that was joyfulness, that was laughter. Like one of the things I love about our group is, so we have a group of friends. We're all pretty much widowed, except for when David joins us, or we invite one of our single or divorced people, which is fun. But even then, it's fun and joyful, and it's just a good time, which allows healing. Yeah. It allows us to be able to move forward, whether it's from a divorce or from being single and being mad about being single or being widowed.
I know, because heaven forbid I spend time with my married friends.
Oh, I know.
That's miserable.
It's actually, no, see, now Kevin's going to roll his eyes because he was just out with his married couple friends today, and he goes out to lunch with them once a week, and it's one of the things he does. But that brings them connection, and that brings us movement. And so one of the things I love about that is that connection. I really hope that in this week, one of the things that we're bringing out is how important connection is and how it affects our relationship. So I want to end with that, and I want us to kind of talk about that a little bit more, because they said we're going to talk about relationships. We did a little bit, but I really want to talk about how, with what we just talked about, Russell, I want you to think about relationships and how this can affect, and trauma can affect a relationship with somebody else. Like, especially when you're dating that person. Like, could you imagine dating me prior to my work? Here's somebody who's been sexually abused, somebody who's lost her husband to a heart attack, somebody who's been in a car accident where a child has passed. I've had miscarriages, not one, but two. I've been through 2 open heart surgeries with my husband. Like, I can keep going, right? Yeah. But can you imagine that trauma? Could you imagine dating me and what that would have been like and the difficulties?
Yeah. Well, and this brings up a good point. I remember a couple of years back, I was having a conversation with a widow, and the term baggage came up.
Okay.
And I said, "Well, we all have baggage." And she goes, "I don't." I said,
Did you? Then you laughed.
I said, "Do you have kids?" "Yeah." "Okay, that's baggage." "Did your husband die?" "Yeah." "Okay, that's baggage." "Okay, we could probably go through 10 more, but let's just stop there." Everybody has baggage, and how we deal with that and how we accept that in another person is, I think, the challenge that we have, and how far we're willing to go into that person's life with ours.
Well, and one of the things that you brought up, and he said they're talking about baggage. I don't know if you can see my face, but my little therapist face is going this, because I don't use baggage. I say we all have stuff.
I know. I'm just a layman.
It's all right. No, because some people are like, oh, how you talk and what you say doesn't matter, but it really does. Yeah. What we say to ourselves really does affect how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about others. I have my friend Kevin. I have a few friends who I get after about them self-talking badly about themselves, because it bothers me, because as a therapist, I know it makes a difference. I'm like, you just got to accept it. And I'm like, and the therapist in me and the person in me that cares is never fully going to accept it. I get that I can't get you to change that. I want to.
So what's a better word to use than baggage?
Like I said, we got our stuff.
We have our stuff.
It's a kinder word, because baggage makes, especially with society around it, it sounds heavy, it sounds bad. And in truth, we all have our stuff. We all have things that we need to work on. We all have things. But our stuff doesn't make us unlovable. But when you say baggage, you feel unlovable.
It's a negative word when we use it that way.
Yes. Yeah. And so I'm really careful about what I say and how I say things. So that's one of the things. Another thing in relationships is understanding with me, if we get an argument and I'm in the red, don't continue to talk to me. And it's really hard, because sometimes it takes me a moment, but I always usually try to say, okay, talk about it later. I can't always get that out. But I very much try to say, let's talk about this later, because I'm a person that if I'm in the red and you engage me in the red, I'm just going to get uglier, I'm going to get nastier, and I'm going to get louder and bigger.
And see, this is how I know you was giving shiz to that printer when I walked.
I was.
You giving shiz to the printer. And
he might have heard me say the F word, because I was pissed. Everything, and it kept, and he's like,
And I just sat down, because I know.
Yes, but I also know once I get it out, I don't hold on to things. That's one of the things that I am very grateful that I'm blessed with. I will call my friends, and I'm like, I was actually calling somebody today. I was annoyed about something, and I was like venting. I'm like, okay, I'm good with it. I'm over it, because once I vent, I'm gone. But I have to get it out in a healthy way.
And I think that's, if everyone could do that, it would be so much better off if we could just vent, get it out of our system, because it will hold in there till we do vent.
Well, and that's the thing is we do need to get it out. But for me, I could have vented the person I was annoyed at. I didn't. I called. In fact, I called Kevin and I was like, "Hey, Kevin, talk me," and we talked through it, and we were like, "Yeah." And now I'm like, "Okay, I'm good. I've got it over. I understand why I was annoyed. I understand what was bothering me. I'm good. I let it out." But did it affect me? At the moment, it did. Once I've gotten it out and processed it. So the other thing in a relationship is understanding to give a person space. And so give a person time out. And this is interesting because we always sometimes expect the other person to call the time out or expect ourselves to call it. No. You can call it when you see your partner needs it, or you can call it when you need it. And so I'm really big about don't talk about things. The other rule I am, don't talk about things late at night. Sorry, it's not going to go well. If it's late, it's bedtime. Literally say, let's talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Even if it's a good conversation, because like at 10 o'clock, if I'm getting texts or something, I just ignore them. Even if it's a good
Ignores
conversation.
me sometimes.
I know. Because it's wind down time and it's a process.
Yes, well, and your brain, it over agitates. It's going to affect your sleep. And in truth, we're not in a good place, and especially at night because it's supposed to be bedtime. And some people are like, well, I sleep during the day. Well, then make sure your partner's sleeping during the day. Otherwise, you're going to struggle.
Yeah. Well, it's even like with my 21-year-old daughter. She'll come in and want to engage in a conversation at 10:30, 10:45 because she's staying up later than I am. And I'm sorry, no, this is it. It's the end of the day. We can talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah. So my rule of thumb, especially when I was doing couples therapy, was call your time out and don't talk about it. Wait till the morning. And the other part about that is also give things time. Sometimes we want to quickly talk about things, and so many miscommunications and things happen because we're trying to address it right then and there, right? Men being the fixers, sometimes they're like, let's talk about it. Or women will be like, I need to process. No, you don't. Give it. But the rule to that is when you give a time out, you have to come back because you can break trust. If you give a time out and you don't come back to it, you've broken the trust. So that lack of communication, that lack of coming back to things can really cause problems too. So if you were dating me, again, know that don't talk to me late at night. Because if I'm emotional and flooded, help me to calm down. Help me to comfort me. And it's interesting because oftentimes we think the very thing that we don't need is the very thing that we do need. And so when I am really agitated, I actually need a hug. I need you to come in and say, I got you. I'm safe. The best thing anybody can ever do when they date me is to say, I've got you. You're safe. Because at the root of my stuff and my childhood trauma was not having safe, not knowing I was safe. And so when I feel safe, I will let the world down, but you have to let me know I'm safe. But it also can create way too much connection when I think I'm safe but I'm not, and it gets all confusing, and I don't really, should I feel safe with that person yet? No, but it's important to provide that safety. The other thing I would encourage again with dating is we've got another person I want to say hi to Cheryl and Don. I see you both up there. We don't want to ignore you guys. The other thing I want to say in regards to this is understand, I am a big advocate. These videos are always going to be here. So when you're dating somebody, when you're getting to know, come back and watch them. Understand, because it's so much easier in a relationship when you understand what the person's going through and you want to help support it than when we're coming out and we're trying to fix it or we're trying to tell them that they're crazy or something like that. Understanding it helps us to show up.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's good to take a new relationship, kind of slow, in my opinion, and slow, and just kind of see what develops, and don't start talking. Because I joke about this, but
that's all right.
We have a thing in our local culture here is the second date. Okay, let's start talking about marriage.
Sometimes the first. Sometimes at the first date, it's like, hey, let's go.
Let's go look at rings after dinner.
Let's go look at rings, or let's go house shopping. No. No. And it's actually, that was the other thing. So sometimes not only can you have a trauma bond, but you can have a loneliness bond. You can have a bond that happens because of loneliness, and that loneliness can create bonding because you're both lonely and it's not the right bond. Yeah,
and I see that a lot with our older widowed people that are in their
Oh, I see it in,
70s. And
no.
you see it a lot?
It happens in the younger group. Not just the widow group. I see it with people.
Well, yeah, people in general.
Anybody who, I look at the divorced people and how quickly, sometimes, they're out. It was interesting when I lost my husband, my dad was so worried because he said, you're so quick to get out and you're lonely. And in truth, you are. You were doing your life with somebody. Now you're doing it alone and it's hard. And so there's been times when we will make loneliness connections and things like that. And it's just you being lonely. Yeah. Because you're lonely. We're meant. This chapter really brought out, I'm covering up my sense here for a second. This chapter really brought out the part of we are meant to be connected. We will go to extremes to have that connection. Yeah. And so if we're meant to be connected, right? Like imagine what extent you will go to not be lonely. Oh yeah. Right. And so we get, we see our widow group because we have that in common. But in my divorce group and stuff, I see people because I've been single going on 15 years here. I've dated, I've been engaged, all those things. But I have seen people come and go from the group. They've gotten married and divorced because too quick, too soon, too fast, or they didn't get therapy and things like that. And so understand that our stuff can get in our way of our relationships, and what we think is a connection isn't just more than your events that you have that are common. Yeah. So hopefully this is helpful in regards to relationships. I don't see any questions, but let me look while Russell kind of looks here. I actually I see new, so let's see. We got nothing here. Okay, anything anybody say to you? Oh, there, that's what I wanted. I wanted to see the chat. So we don't have any comments. So I want to give you guys a moment if there's anything you want to question. For the ones I can see on camera, if you want to like move and then you have a question, I can
unmove you.
I can make it so you can be seen. Because we can see you, but you're kind of like grayed out.
Yeah, and this is a good time to remind folks that when this hits YouTube to like, share, comment.
Yes, like, share. David, thank you. Your shout out is always appreciated. I think I see. Oh, that was me. I just said any questions. So yes, everything. I switched everything over to just one name. Heart of Peace Counseling. So YouTube is Heart of Peace Counseling. Instagram is Heart of Peace Counseling. Facebook is Heart of Peace Counseling. Really moving towards all that. Yeah. Hi, Paul. Paul Jacobs says hello to us.
Oh, hi, Paul. I'm glad you could come in and join us tonight. I hope it's been worth your time.
And I see Sarah's on. Oh, I miss you, Sarah. I hope you saw my invite for my birthday party thing.
Yeah. So any last comments as we close up tonight?
That we are moving forward in chapter 6. There's also a lot of support groups and things like that. I haven't posted because I was hoping to pick up, but I didn't post last week those forms, so I will do that before we walk out. Yeah. I'm trying to remember
the book, The Body Keeps Score, has a workbook that you can.
Yep. There's 2 of them. Yeah. I have the one that has the most likes and comments on it. I forget which one. But in truth, they're both really good and they're helpful. The other thing is, again, for you new people, the first 3 chapters are hard to get through. Russell's like, are we talking about butterfly again? Yeah. But it gets better and better as we progress and move forward. The other thing that I would want to add, we're gonna trust. Every once in a while, I call God speaking to me, or it might be just my therapist thing. But I want to say, have understanding. We signed up. What's the name of the little booklet you bought out regarding?
This right here.
Oh yes. So I can put a little close up. So these are TheraPlay, and there it is. I'll hold it up. This one is the group one. I have one that is a smaller one, but they're both under TheraPlay. And I love them. So they're therapist things, and I can link that too. If you type in TheraPlay, this one's a group activity, but one's individual, and it's based upon ages. So it's based upon little kids, older teens, and things like that. And this is a great one. I would, if you're a teacher, I would definitely have these in your office and stuff, because these are some really great things. I don't even talk about all the fun little things. We should do one session when we get done with this about all the different little fun things that I have. Like one of the things, so for just a moment, as I play with my pump here, I'm gonna come over here. Okay. This is not even all of them, but so this you can get on Amazon. I got it at a therapy thing. I'm going to hold it a little closer so you can see. It's called Healing Grief. And this has some really good cards inside of it. It's about one of the cards about understanding grief. And this one says, grief is a reflection of love. Most would rather love and grieve than to never experience love, their loved one. Sorry, I read that wrong. Hold on. Most would rather have love and grief than to have never experienced their loved one in this lifetime. So that's so understanding. And then your response to grief. And so this one says, tears are evidence you have loved. Allow yourself to cry when you feel like it. And then this one is healing. And this one says, I am sad. That is what grief feels like sometimes. Let me have my own experience of it. I recognize sadness as part of healing. And then I have this one. It's empowerment for kids. So this one has self-esteem, self-compassion, relaxation, body awareness, feeling, fun, and dreams. So if I open that up, again, all card decks. I'm just going to pull one of these ones. So this one says empowerment cards for kids. And the green one, I forget what that one is, but it says, touch your legs, moving your hands slowly and gently. Whisper to yourself, I love my legs. So this one's that self-esteem building. Okay. We'll throw those down there. So then I've got a CBT. If you like cognitive behavioral therapy, this one has some great little therapy things. Open to joy. Lift the corners of your mouth into a slight smile. Oh, there we go. Now think of ways to inject some fun into your day. It's easy to lose our sense of playfulness when we're busy and stressed, and we can move through the entire day in a constant state of seriousness. Adopt a lighter touch, even with the stress and responsibilities, as you make room for play. So this is some really good things that I use in my office. And then I've got my teen mindfulness deck. And this one is Acorn. Always consider responses now. Good day, bad day. We often categorize our day as good days or bad days. Even on a bad day, usually something pleasant happens. Pay attention to pleasant things in your day. Notice things that bring you happiness. Try not to focus on the negative. And then be you as teens. So I'll try and post some of these links and stuff. I got so many things to help you guys with. I feel like we should do a video just every once in a while, all the fun stuff that I can help you with, and help you to see.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely great.
All right. Thanks. Any other questions? I appreciate that one, Dawn. That was a great one. Yeah. And I'll link it. I'll link everything. My easiest way, even if you don't use Amazon, is to link to Amazon. Come on, Amazon, pay me. I said out. Yeah. But we appreciate those of you who joined us. The other thing is, again, these are going to be up. Share them. Let other people know. You can come back and rewatch them. Next week is chapter 6. Ready for that?
I will be.
Yeah, he says that, but he always forgets. I'm joking. He doesn't. But yeah, we're excited, and we hope you enjoyed. We appreciate those of you who watched.
Yeah, have a good week, and the rest of a good. Look forward to the weekend, and have a great weekend.
Yes, thank you again. Don't forget to like, share, comment. Just be obnoxious and all that liking and sharing. Heart of Peace Counseling.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.